Jesus said in our Gospel according to Luke, the 12th chapter, "And do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying, for it is the nations of the world that strive after all these things, and God knows that you need them. Instead, strive for God's kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is God's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Gracious Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of each heart here be acceptable in your sight, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So Jesus said, "Do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." You know, it's passages like this that make me feel like I'm a bad Christian. Because you see, I have stuff, and I have a lot of it. Now, I remember when we first moved into our house, I remember standing in our empty living room and looking around me and wondering, how in the world are we going to fill this place? We had just moved out of a tiny 2-bedroom apartment that had no storage. And we had a couch and a love seat. And we had a TV. We had one TV, and it was about this big. And it was black and white. We set our one TV on one of our 2 end tables, and that took care of our living room. We had a kitchen table, but no dining room table. We had 1 bed and 1 dresser and 3 bedrooms. And we had an entire basement that we didn't have anything to put in. I thought the house was huge. Now, fast forward 20 years, and I am asking a very different question. My question now is, where am I going to put all this stuff? There's nowhere left to put it. Last Thursday, I went through one of my kitchen cupboards, and I learned something about myself that I didn't know. I own 30 flower vases. 30 flower vases, literally. I counted them, 30. Now, for some of you, this might not be an excess. You know, maybe you have a flower garden. Maybe you bring in flowers frequently and you put them around your house and everything looks beautiful. Well, I don't have a flower garden. And I think maybe I have used 1, maybe 2 at the same time. And the only time I put flowers out, I put them in the kitchen or the dining room. How many flower vases do I need? So my question today is not, how am I going to fill this place? Nor is it, where am I going to put all this stuff? It's, how did this happen? But after I thought about it for a little while, I think I have the answer. The root of the problem, you guys, the root of the problem is, I'm a Gemini. That's the whole root of the problem. You see, the Gemini is the twin, right? And I have these 2 personalities living within me. You know, I truly believe in frugality. So if you have something and it's old, but it works, you should keep it. If you have something and it's old and it doesn't work, but it can be fixed, you should keep it. If you have something that is old and it doesn't work and it can't be fixed, but it may someday be good for parts, you should keep it. On the other hand, I am a child of the 80s. And as a child of the 80s, I have absorbed that belief that more is always better. Buy, 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 buy. I like new things. They're bright and they're shiny and they're new and they are filled with such potential. The novelty of their newness is so intriguing. And so through the years, I have kept and I have added and I have kept and I have added to the point now where I don't have a place to put anything new. All because I'm a Gemini. Now, maybe you live in clutter too. And despite your astrological sign, maybe you too are a closet Gemini. Elizabeth DeLemba says that we accumulate for a couple reasons. She says, first of all, we accumulate because our possessions make us feel safe. Now, she doesn't explain it this way, but it makes sense to me that biologically, we are wired to be hunters and gatherers. For a long time of human history, we had to gather in order to survive. If we didn't bring in the berries, we didn't eat, and we would starve to death when winter came. So the more berries that we have, the more likely we and our clan are to survive the winter. So possessions make us feel safe. Secondly, she says that possessions make us feel permanent. If I am surrounded by all of this stuff and it's not going anywhere, then I must not be going anywhere either. And so to her first couple of reasons, I would add another reason that we accumulate. We think that the memory lives in the object. Why can't I throw that drawing that Rachel did when she was 2 years old, that little scribble on that crumpled piece of paper? Why can't I let go of that paper on which Anna first tried to write her name? It's because looking at those pieces of paper take me back to that moment when they were created. Why can't I throw the awful, ugly, orange flowered chair that I have downstairs that was my great-grandmother's? Because it was my great-grandmother's, and it holds the memory of her. So we unintentionally end up accumulating because we have convinced ourselves that the object holds the memory. Well, Jesus talked a lot about money and possessions. In fact, 16 of the 38 parables have something to do with money or possessions. So if possessions make me feel safe and stable, if they bring back good memories, what's the harm in that? Why is this topic so important that Jesus spent so much of his time talking about it? You see, the problem isn't money or possessions. The problem is determining when enough is enough. The problem is that we no longer have to accumulate in order to survive. If I want berries, I'll just run down to the store and grab a pack. The problem is that the idea that my possessions are permanent is in itself a lie. None of my stuff is permanent. It will all rust and decay, and the objects do not hold the memory. I hold the memory inside of me. And when I end up spending so much time accumulating, maintaining, and fixing, or simply just moving stuff around and trying to live around it, I don't have time left to make new, wonderful, meaningful memories. The problem arises when my accumulation takes over my life and keeps me from living life. And Jesus is so concerned about money and possessions because Jesus is always on the side of life. Deep, meaningful, vibrant life does not come from an endless cycle of accumulation. In fact, an endless cycle of accumulation robs us of life. So those who have gone through the difficult job of minimizing their possessions, they say that when they do that, they have more free time, more peace of mind, and more mental clarity. Instead of spending their time picking up their stuff, they have time to read for pleasure. They feel calm and more comfortable having people in their home, and so their connections with their friends and family are deepened and strengthened. And they have a renewed sense of mental space that gives them time to think and to dream. You know, that sounds like pretty good living to me. So the question today is not, how am I going to fill this place? Nor is the question, where am I going to put all this stuff? And it's not even, how did this happen? The question is your stuff keeping you from living? When is enough enough? You know, how many vases do I need? You know, Jesus isn't asking me to give away all of my vases. You know, once in a while it is nice to bring just a little bit of nature's beauty into my home. But do I need 30? Or 20? Or 10? Or maybe just 2? Just 2. And maybe if I don't have 30, maybe I will spend more of my time putting flowers in those vases and have more time to enjoy a bit of nature's beauty in my home more often. Have your things taken over your life? Do your things keep you from living? Do not keep striving and worrying. Live. Amen. Our prayer time is a time for letting go of the things that we don't need, that weigh us down. We let go of regret, unburdening our hearts. We remember the promise that God will never abandon us no matter what. We let go of worry about the things we cannot control, giving it all to our loving God who holds us close. In a moment, we will share a moment of silence. And it's okay to not try to find words to fill that silence in your head. It's okay if your thoughts won't quiet down. Just find a stillness, perhaps calling attention to your feet on the floor or your hands in your lap or your breath as it goes in and out. There is nothing expected of you now. There is nowhere to go, nowhere to be. This stillness, this being is enough.
Rock of ages, cry for me. Let me hide myself in you. Let the water and the mud from my wounded side which flow be of sin. Good And while I close and my eyes are closing now, and I slow towards
for striving for material things just to fill a void. Forgive us for the times when our unburdening burdens the earth. Forgive us. Help us lay down the shoulds that dominate our lives, O God. Help us let go of any unhealthy drive to succeed and seek the journey of true fulfillment. Help us to seek your kingdom by focusing on that which sustains love and justice. For this is the real treasure of this world.
In this moment, we hear your promise. I, God, know your every need. We can let go of so much worry about the future.
You do not ask us to suffer without the things we need, just to be mindful to live simply so that others may simply live. We are your children, siblings to one another.